I'm coming to you live from like the absolute worst webcam in the world because I did not want to turn on my camera today because this thing, if I were to record this tutorial on this big beast, it would be like 100 gigabytes, and honestly, I don't really want to do that, so you're watching this on my webcam. It's not even my best webcam. I have a better webcam in my brother's room. I just don't care enough to grab it. So this is a tutorial. So um, this guy wanted to recreate this, and I'm creating this so that because we are going to discuss logistics later, I guess. Um, but I created this because not one, but two people asked. So this is quite a hot market, okay? I'm going to see a bunch of, like, I will create Chinese text animated on Fiverr for you. I'm going to see a bunch of those on Fiverr, so I'm happy that I'm creating this market. Just like on the Blender sub, you just see a ton of donuts. You're going to see this, I guess. Although you always see, like, the crappy intro templates always being made. Like, this is my first After Effects project. Mine is actually, I don't even want to show it. I'll put it in the description if I care enough, but I'm not going to because it is awful. So, this is what we're making. So here, I'll play it in real time, and as you can see, I am inside of the progress panel because I'm extra. So, as you can see, the brush strokes kind of draw themselves, and something swipes through and splits them up. So, we are going to go ahead. Here's a very simple breakdown. So we have our color correction. We have this pre-comp, which is basically going to animate just zooming in and out. That's all it does. Here we have our brush pre-cam, which kind of sounds a little wrong, which basically has the actual kind of swipe thing. It has two layers with the masks. It has this just original one that splits up, and it has this background, which of course is just a simple gray, like tan solid with a texturize on it. Nothing crazy. But if we actually go inside of this, you'll see it has all the letters being built up, and it has a little bit of roughen edges. And if we actually go into our individual comps, you'll see that we just have it building up. And of course, it's all procedurally using echo and coming from this brush, which is just black solid, a fractal noise with roughen edges, and a mask, and shift channels and invert. So that's the basic rundown of it. So let's actually do it. So let's make a brand new composition. I'm going to call this one brush full. And this is where I actually need to start paying attention. Let's go ahead and create. So this is going to be where our actual full animation is going to go inside of, but we don't need to do that yet because we need to make our actual brush first. So this is going to be a composition. We're going to set the width to 512 by 512. Always make sure in After Effects that your pixel aspect ratio is square pixels. If you set it to these, your pixels are actually going to be really weirdly shaped, and it's only useful if you shoot with like an ancient camera, but you likely won't be doing that unless you're shooting with like a professional like anamorphic lens. But even then, you probably won't be doing that. You'll probably stretch it out in post. So let's go ahead and create a brush. So first we're going to create a new solid by hitting Control Y or Command Y if you're on a Mac. We call this the brush fractal. And we're going to add a fractal noise effect. Fractal noise effect. If you're wondering what this thing is, this is just the FX console from Video Copilot, but all this is doing is just searching through this and applying it. So if you need to do this, you can just type in fractal noise and just drag it on. You're good. So we're going to increase the contrast by quite a bit. And what fractal noise does is it just creates just a bunch of noise, but in a kind of weird way. This is useful for if you're like making clouds and stuff. It's not very useful on its own, but it's a good starting point to create a lot of other things. Or it is good on its own, depending on what you're doing with it. So we're going to decrease the brightness a bit so that we kind of have it equal. You know, this is Chinese. Needs to be yin and yang. That's probably the most racist thing I've said today. So let's go to ellipse tool. If you don't see this ellipse tool, you can just hold down on here and hit ellipse tool, just let go, and double click on it to create a circular mask. Now we're going to expand this and decrease this by just a little bit. And we're going to add a Roughen Edges effect. What a Roughen Edges does is basically takes this kind of transparency and just kind of smooths it out in a really weird way. So I'm just going to increase this to match the fractal noise, and I might a bit more. I'll change up the actual scale to match up, and I'll change the edge sharpness a little bit. I'll move that down. So now we have this. So now what we need to do is we need to create a black solid, because what's going to happen here is we're going to basically take the alpha, and if we have that kind of transparent, it's going to get really confused. So we're going to create a new black solid, and we'll just call this brush composite black, and we'll add this underneath, and we'll add a adjustment layer by hitting Control Alt Y or Command Option Y on a Mac. We'll call this a brush underscore, I'll probably call it just transparent. And we will add a shift channels effect on take alpha from. We'll set that to luminance, and we'll set them to all full on. And this is the part where I have to be honest. A lot of this I'm using from another tutorial because he's way smarter than me. But hey, I have to make a brushstroke tutorial to help you out with this. I cannot talk today. So we are now going to make a 1080 by 1080 composition. Actually, yeah, 1080 by 1080. And we will call this the E letter. So let's actually make a folder for all these letters. So letters. And we'll just add this in. Do you like the satisfying sound of my mechanical keyboard? Because psych, it's not mechanical. It's actually just a very crappy like Razer or Nada or whatever. I don't even know. Let's not copy them yet. We have to add in the actual brush pre-comp. So let's decrease the scale a bit, because this is basically going to define our stroke width. And let's add an adjustment layer. Control Alt Y, and this is going to be our letter underscore composite. So we're going to add the echo effect. I just created echo. Yes. So what this is basically going to do is here, just for a little bit of demonstration, I am just going to keyframe this, and it basically is almost like a pseudo motion blur. So if I create a bunch of echoes, that's basically how it works. So let's remove this. So we're going to set our number of echoes to something close to around 270. So that may sound like a lot, but you have to remember that since this is moving a lot, you need to have a lot of definition, because already you can see it gets kind of confused with this. So we actually might want to set our echo time to from minus 0.033 to minus 0.0003. Yeah, or we can do 0.003 and it'll give us a similar effect. So we can actually even stretch this out a little bit. And as you can see, that's kind of how we create our brushstroke effect. So what we're going to do here is let's reset our position. You can actually center a After Effects layer by hitting Alt and Home. Although this one, it didn't do that. Oh, Control Home, sorry. So that's Command Home on a Mac. You probably get the point by now. And we're just going to copy our solid for our comp. Can you tell that I'm tired? Homecoming was yesterday, so had fun, but I am tired. But I gotta help. What's their name? I gotta help Kamooks with this because I don't have my priorities checked. J letter, and A letter, and this is of course spelling out my name. If you couldn't tell, my name is Elijah. And my last name is Chiali. I know you couldn't have told that by anything but the channel name, which is a pretty obscure thing, I know. It's pretty hard to find somebody's channel name. I think it's like down there next to the subscribe button. Okay. Of course, I joke. So what we're going to do is we're going to keyframe it in the actual path of position that we want. So we're going to go here. About 4 frames later, we'll move to here. About 10 frames later, move down here, and about 4 frames later, we'll move back over here. And if that speed seems fine, don't worry about this thing just kind of like bopping a little. That's fine. If that seems like a fine speed, it's fine. But if it doesn't seem like a fine speed, you can, of course, speed it up. And I'm going to do something no man has ever thought to do before. I'm going to smooth it out. I'm going to smooth out this final little part by just adjusting this. Now, if you're in After Effects and it says that you can't, it's like grayed out and you can't change the handles, that's because you're actually looking at your value graph. You need to go to here and set it to your speed graph. And here's your reference graph, which is a whole nother thing. But there you go. And now we can go ahead and add some style to it. So I'm going to animate all of these. So our scale is our brush stroke width. Our opacity is, I guess, our brush hardness. Sure. And our rotation, we just kind of want to change to give it some variety. And over here, I'm actually going to change this to -0.002. And I'm going to up the number of echoes a bit, decrease the starting intensity a tiny bit, and I'm going to go to my echo time, and actually, that gives a lot more definition, but I'm worried it's going to destroy this computer. Fine. So just increase your number of echoes by a very large amount. Sure. So we'll want to change it to, I'd say about 600 would probably be good. Because we also need to add the second part of E. This is a lot simpler. I'll reset all of our transform values and just turn off keyframing. And just take this from here and animate it to here. Boom, job done. And there you go. So you'll notice over here, it starts to fade away, but we don't need to render all that. So what we can actually do is we can go to here and we can hit N, which decreases our work area, which means that technically this is a work area is kind of like Premiere Pro's in and out points. And then we can hit Control Shift X, and that decreases the time of our comp to just this. Now we can go to all of our other letters. This is the most tedious part, just setting all of the parameters and changing all of the positions and just animating in general. That's the main part that sucks about After Effects, because it's usually just a lot of click it, play, am I done? No, I'm not. It messed up. Okay, click it again. Okay, cool. It's no fun, but everything comes with its mundane parts. Everybody loves editing until you get a long interview spot that you have to edit. Then everybody hates editing. And like, hey Elijah, you want to edit this spot? And I'm like, honestly, no, I kind of don't. Because interviews are kind of the worst part of editing. I don't know why I'm ranting about editing right now, but I am. If you kind of want to get this tapered stroke at the end, you can just set your opacity to 0. Ooh, Apple Watch notification. Hey, yeah, it's just from somebody annoying. Okay. Oh wow, they sent me a iMessage, a Snapchat, and an Instagram DM. I think they want my attention. Welp, they don't get it. Because I'm recording an After Effects tutorial for Kamooks. So, they're taking precedent, okay? See that? You're special. Yeah, I'm going to set this to -001, and we'll just increase the number of echoes until it stops going away. And then we just go up to the frame here and hit N, and then Control-Shift-X. And there we go. Because all we need to capture is just the animation. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of a taper here. There we go. And that's fun. This is awesome. I'm only doing this to procrastinate because I have another thing that I have to edit tonight, but I really don't want to right now, so I'm not going to. See that? You're helping me procrastinate, and that is honestly the best thing ever. It's the best compliment you can get from somebody, that you help them procrastinate. Or it could be the worst compliment. Kind of depends on your view. Move this a bit. There we go. Two letters down. How long have we... Oh, wow, 17 minutes. Okay. I'm gonna hurry up. You're probably bored out of your mind. Maybe I'll edit this down if I care enough. I probably don't. So, just gonna decrease this a bit. I'm talking like a Twitch streamer. Or maybe I am. Maybe I have chat open in the background and you guys just don't know. Only chat would know. I mean, only who would know. And we'll set this down. Perfect. ELI. Now we actually have to add a little bit of style. So, this is how to work with Bezier Handles in After Effects. We're having so many tutorials in here. It's awesome. So, I'm going to move this to here, and then I'm going to set the Bezier handle. So, there will be this little Bezier handle over here. You can just move it like that. Make sure you have your motion paths enabled. I'm not sure where that actually is enabled in, but wherever it is, enable that, because that's really handy. Add a little bit of motion smoothness to that. And I'm just going to taper it a bit. And we'll actually want to taper it over here too. Because that's just the Neutron style, man, you know? And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more definition to this. The nice thing is I actually have a monitor over here, or over there, which actually shows me in real time my full preview and full resolution, which is really useful. Cool. I need to add A. Oh wow, only took us 2 minutes to do 2 letters. We're setting records here. I need a good playlist. I need a good playlist for just After Effects tutorials, but all the songs I like are copyrighted, so it's a sadness. That's one of them, actually. It's called Sadness. The playlist, not the song. Set by hours. Okay. I'll decrease it over here a little bit. And the main thing is I want to change the rotation a bit, and I actually need to do that on J as well. Because the main thing is it adds a lot of variation, and it kind of creates a nice stroke width. I've noticed whenever I draw an A, I'll kind of draw the top more like, I guess, narrow. And then the other leg can be bigger. It's fine. I actually don't know what is causing this. What is causing this? Is this a caching issue? All right, we're purging our cache. Ooh, that's 41 gigabytes. Okay, so what was happening was After Effects was it was like, oh, I already have this frame. I don't need to re-render it, and it created problems. But now we don't have the problems. See, After Effects tries to like be smart and be like, oh well, I don't need to render this anymore because I've already done this. But the problem is sometimes it gets a little dumb and tries to be like, oh well, I don't need to render this even though you changed something. So it's nice that we kind of get the option to be like, no, that's different. I'm gonna go back to J, and I forgot to actually change the rotation, so we're gonna do that now. On this brush, I'm gonna add the actual so we gotta add this leg right over here too. This devious leg. Fun times. Okay, so I actually need to keyframe this. And we're just going to end it right here. And Control-Shift-X. Alright, you kind of get the point. I don't even need to show you H. But I'm just cool like that, and I'll show you H. You know. There's just some like Family Guy skit about H and M and R. Like, it wasn't even that funny. But for some reason, I just cracked up at it. I was like, haha, it's funny because H and M and R. The main thing is I'm going to make sure that all these positions stay fine. I'm going to make sure that this stays till at least here. You want to make sure you decrease the number of echoes because every single number you decrease it by decreases your render time. Because echo is basically a plugin that's named Kill My Computer Please, because it basically is rendering around, I'll just say 700 copies of it, which is a lot. But let's go ahead, add our taper. Add some rotation. Add some scale difference. I might taper this. I might make the top a little smaller. Yep. I'll change these positions from here to here. Kind of looks like a pipe for weed. Joking. I don't do that. Let's go ahead. And let's finish this, because I'm kind of tired of this already. But the hard part is nearly over. All we need to do now is just make sure that everything is all in check. Okay, cool. So you may be asking, oh, but if you look at the actual text, it's actually black text. How do I do that? So I had it white so that I could actually see this. But if we actually go all the way back to brush, go to shift channels, we can actually just type in invert, give it an invert effect, and there we go. So if we actually change it to transparency, you'll see that we actually have that option. Very fun. So here comes the very fun part. So now we're going to create a new composition, and I'll just call this brush letters. Go to composition settings, set it to 1920 by 1080, and we'll add in all of our letters. So we're going to have our E, L, I, J, A, and H. And so the nice thing about After Effects is you may have noticed, for I forgot to actually trim it to the comp area. So I actually made my work area. I'll just hit Control-Shift-X. And for the H letter, I forgot to go in here and set it to here and hit Control-Shift-X. Very nice. But you may be noticing, but wait, they disappear. So what you can actually do is in After Effects, you can go to Time and hit Freeze on Last Frame. Because we don't want to because the other option is to basically just have echo be on so many echoes that it just destroys your computer. This is a way faster way to do it. I'm going to try to keep this under the 30-minute mark, so you're probably watching this and being like, well, he took him longer than 30 minutes. I'm looking at the time. But I'm trying to make it relatively quick. So I'm going to hide all these. I'm going to make them significantly smaller. And we're just going to find the end for these. Select all these and move them over a bit. Ooh, they may have to be a bit smaller. Move them over. It's a fun process. This would be nice as friends. If I had friends over doing this. Just them yelling at me while I do After Effects. It would be fun. But they're all asleep because they have a theater show. So they all go at once, which is fine. Because I thought I heard somebody. Because what we can do is we can see whenever E ends, that's when we'll start L. And you can actually, you could drag it over, or you could just hit the left bracket key and then continue from there. If J come in a little bit later, once J is almost done, we'll start A. And once A is almost done, we'll start H. And there you go. So. Okay. Now that we've done that, now we can go into our brush full, and we can start arranging things. So I'll go ahead, and now that we've added this in, we can go ahead and create a new solid, and this is going to be our paper background. Actually, we don't need to do this yet. I'm sorry. So we're going to have it animate, let it sit there for a while, and then this is where it's actually going to slam, or I guess cut. So we'll duplicate this layer, and we're going to hit the Alt in the left bracket, and I'll make it start, and then we'll go one frame forward, or like one frame before by hitting page up, or you can just manually move, and we'll hit Alt right bracket, and that'll make it this. Once this ends, these two come in, and now we need to actually add a mask to where the cut is. So I'm going to go to this layer, hit here, and make sure it's on this setting instead of a shape layer. We're going to create a mask. So we'll add this over here. And now I'll kind of create like a curve. And now we have this. So if I hit M and get to masks, I can copy this and paste it onto here. Hit M again, and invert this. So now I can move these independently. So I'm going to go into my transformation properties, and we'll begin animating. So now we can go to our position and our rotation. And we'll just slowly move these like this, and just animating them drifting apart. And I do believe, yes, okay. So since these are infinitely long, we can actually just stretch these out. So now we just need to go ahead and add in our actual time keyframes. So we'll go into our graph editor, set this to our speed graph, and just begin setting them all to end at 0 a second. So this will keep them kind of moving a bit and keep it smooth. Just like that. There you go. And if you want, kind of move this bottom part down a bit. I might change this to like 5-4. And then we just need to add in the thing swooping across. So that's just a simple line. So I'll add this part here and this part here. And now we can go into our stroke settings. Delete this fill. We can decrease the stroke width, and I'll set it to black for now. We can set it to black, which means we actually have to make it transparent. Oh wow, I'm doing great today, aren't I? I'm really winning this. And I'm going to go to here, and I'll call this swipe. Swipe or no swiping. I remember watching that show as a kid. Okay, so trim paths. We'll add a trim paths animator, which is basically just a modifier of like whatever value you have. And we'll just take the end and go a couple of frames forward. And we'll just animate the time. We may want to move it up a little further, but not that up. I may change the path to move to over here, and I'll just change up the length. And I'm actually going to go back to brush letters because there's something that I want to do. I'm actually going to add a roughen to here. So I'm going to add a roughen edges. And I'm going to basically change the complexity up to a lot higher. And I'm going to change the border down. So I kind of have this better kind of text. Change the scale to whatever suits you, but this is what I'm looking for. I'm going to change it to more width. So this is going to change the aspect ratio of it. Now if we go back to here, and I'll add a roughen edges to the line itself as well. So I'll go ahead and roughen this. Go ahead, change it as much as you want, but this is what I'm looking for. And at this point, I might make the start end, so kind of swoops like that. That's looking pretty good. Let's preview it. Fantastic. And now we're going to go ahead and pre-comp all this. And we'll call this the we'll call this letters animated. And let's go ahead and add our background. Paper background. You can actually change the settings by just hitting Control Y. Again, if you're actually selecting a solid, that's when you can change the settings. Change this back a bit. Paper background. Okay, it created a new one. That's fine though. I'll add uni.texturize. But all this really is just a couple extra library of textures. But you can always you can always just do texturize After Effects default and just add a new texture, because that does the exact same thing. This basically is just a really faster way to do it. Or you can just use an actual paper image and After Effects. Hey! After Effects froze. So we'll give it a hot minute. Come on. Come on. Hooray. We're going to turn off the mask. So if you actually have this effect, you can follow this part. Turn off the mask, and I'm just going to decrease the texture opacity by quite a bit. And we're going to increase the actual tint strength. And now that we've done that, now we can select this, pre-comp this as letters pre-cam, which, again, sounds very wrong. And we're going to find the last frame of animation that we actually want to use, so I'll make this 5. And we're going to set our scale position by hitting S. And we'll want to zoom in as much as we want to. I'll zoom in only 110. And we'll hit N and Control Shift X. And there we go. So this is our finished animation, and we can just go ahead and add an adjustment layer. I'll call this color correct, because I'm going to be adding a little bit of this. So first I'm going to add a vignette. Adding that a little bit. Then I'm going to add a tint. I'm going to map the white to a more kind of light orangey. Ooh, fancy. So now we can go ahead and go to our exposure. We'll add a exposure effect just to brighten it up a bit. And that should be enough. Perfect. In case you feel like this is too big, we can actually just move our letters down a bit. And I'll just change that to like 90. Actually, there's not a ton we can do about that. I don't know why I even thought about that. Let's just change it back to 100. And now this should be our finished animation. And if you're somehow still with us, if you don't know how to export, we're just going to go ahead and save this as brush done to. And you can hit Control M or Command M. I'm going to set this as a QuickTime ProRes Lite. And this means that we can actually, I'll call this, let me go to my videos and brush full. And we'll actually render this. So this is going to be a way bigger version, but that's going to allow us to use it in our intro a lot. That scared the crap out of me. And, ooh. Go ahead. And there we go. In case you're wondering what this is actually Media Player Classic, which is because normal Windows Media Player movies and TV cannot play ProRes files. Anyway, that's the end of the tutorial. If you're somehow, if you're somehow still watching this, thank you. Subscribe. Bye.